Fallout 76 players have created some incredible camp builds in 2023, and in today's video we're taking a look at some of the best player creations built this year. The fourth showcase in the series, today we're looking at a varied selection of different builds, featuring a clever perspective camp, 2 raider camp builds, a wasteland home, a modern villa, a castle, a museum of miniature dioramas, an explosive flower shop, and an equally deadly car, before finishing up with a boat party on an incredible yacht built by Monster 76. Today's video has chapters if you want to navigate to a particular build, but diving straight in, up first today we have a raider outpost built by Rio Tarutaru. Built into a cliffside in the ash heap, the first thing that catches the eye on approach is the incredible lighting. And this isn't just down to the build but the location as well. Cleverly building around some pre-existing fire pits found in the region, complemented by some strategically placed buildable fires. In particular, look out for the one on top of the flag, which is a great touch. Walking around is pretty scrappy, with stacked cars forming part of the structure, and a submerged vendor wagon leaving only the car up top. Heading upstairs, I really like the use of every inch of space in the build, the shipping container doubling up as a power armor station, and as a connection to a bridge that loops around the top, giving some great views of the surrounding area, and as a gangway to reach this tower. To finish up here though, we head over to the far corner, and an interesting little scene. A small Cappy statue points us in the direction of Nuka World, and yeah, this spring trap just next to it isn't just for show, as it's actually a different take on a fast travel point to the big top tent. Overall, Rio Tarutaru did a great job with this immersive raider build, really cramming a lot into such a small space, and perfectly blending it into the environment. And speaking of blending a build into the environment, we head over to Camp 2, a castle built by Cagliostro. Built on the shores of Grafton Lake, Cagliostro incorporated the hanging pipes from Grafton steel into the build itself. Creating a waterfall effect complemented by hanging vines and a bleached white aesthetic is one of the smartest uses of the surrounding area that I've seen so far in a build. The structure itself is very unique too, using a varied mix of camp items to create the different features. Mirrored staircases in particular standing out on the roof sections, but also look out for the stacked mausoleums built into the top section. Heading inside, we see the water falling onto the walkway before finding this room, and it turns out that Cagliostro is something of a painter. And I love this custom-made easel, and on the side table off to the side, paint and paintbrushes. The interior of the build is overlooked by stacked Season 8 scoreboards, which really do look like stained glass panes when used like this. A really nice build by Cagliostro, but finishing up here we move on to the open road, to check out the latest car built by Bad Notions. Over the years, Bad has built tanks, F1 cars, UFOs, but it seems fitting that on his character which roleplays as no-nonsense British action star Jason Statham, that he would have a car to match. And the transporter has a car cater-made for the apocalypse, as we take a closer look at the myriad items that went into this design. This entire build is made up of floated items with lots and lots of toolboxes, stash boxes, and the new red picnic tables making up the chassis, with floated clocks doubling up as the wheels. There's also a trio of race beds, 1 for the front and 2 for the back, which really helps sell the design as well. Seeing a movie star of this stature out of the wasteland was sure to draw attention from the local press, and it's a good opportunity to exercise a surprisingly devastating unarmed build. And the car has a few tricks too. The flamethrower at the back hooked up to a switch is definitely not just for show. Finishing up here, it was time for a little bit of a celebration as Jason headed over to the villa built by Monster 76 for a pool party. A custom mod build to utilise that handy extra camp budget, this extravagant wasteland home was actually based on a real villa shown on landscaper Marvin Atmos Vert's YouTube channel, and Monty did a really great job modelling a camp based on that. It's an exterior only build as well, which is understandable given the size, featuring a perimeter wall aligned with a pathway leading to a patio out back, which even has its own pool. Perfect for hosting guests, the build has everything you need for taking a load off, outside dining areas, recliners, and so much room for activities.
Appalachia! What a sight! A verdant wonderland of promise plucked from post-atomic blight. The fruit of years of prudent progress and determined reclamation, and 15 million dwellers worth of keen imagination. From the heart of West Virginia to the depths of the pit.
We'll be back for a continuation of the party later on board Monty's yacht, but for now we're checking out a lore-friendly junk build built by WAUWAUBAU. Nestled in a small valley in the Savage Divide, the camp is built around a small pre-existing location, with dumped barrels and skeletons. And it's out of this where the custom-made stilts support the main building. It's a really great use of stacked fences to make this, but the entire structure is built using a variety of different wall pieces and decoration to really make it feel like a wastelander. Stitch this together over time with whatever was available. Heading inside for a closer look at the interior, it's a similar story inside. Filled to the brim with decorative junk, and a setup for the vendor and workbenches along the walls. WAUWAUBAU did a really great job of finding the perfect balance of making a lived-in wastelander home without going too overboard with the junk decorating, the custom-made stilts and design of the tower being the highlight for me. Nestled next to the roadside, KAZAMATI's flower shop seems like a great place for a quick vendor stop. A welcoming open sign invites us into this custom-made shack, and there's nice work on sinking half walls around the edge of the flower beds, and leaving just enough of the submerged freight wagon's crate showing around the back. Of course, there is normally a lot more than meets the eye with one of Kaz's builds, and this one is no different, as the moment you try to use the vendor, the door slams shut, the floor disappears, and Tesla Arc sent my character ragdolling out of the open window. It seems like a good time for a bit of a compilation to see this in action from every angle. I do always enjoy a KAZAMATI trap camp, as taking a look underground, you get an idea for how complex the wiring, timing, and flamer arrangement needs to be to get this working perfectly. Another deviously creative trap camp from Kaz, but it's time to look at something a bit safer next as we go on a tour of Duke's Dioramas, a museum shelter built by Duke Destro. Technically you could say this is actually several builds all in one, as this is actually just a series of small scenes built into different displays. Up first we have a miniature recreation of locations like Lucky Hole Mine, famous for the unexplained presence of buried Art Deco statues, and I really like the use of the 4 Nuka-Cola planter foundations in this display. Taking a look at the opposite wall, we have a miniature landscape made up of merged train sets with small junk decorations. There's also an interesting take called the Wild West, a moon base, and stopping to take a closer look, I really like the use of the UFO patio table as the big biodome. A miniature factory is up next, complete with tiny workers, and there are a ton of camp items smashed together here to create this industrial diorama. Moving on, we have gorilla power armor, a rad toad complete with a watery terrarium, and last but not least on this side, the white spring under attack from a giant ant. On the opposite wall we have another miniature city under attack, Deathclaws battle the army, a live feeding for Fallout's hungriest plant, and a witch torments an unfortunate port boy. And there's a couple more of these guys trapped on an island, but now taking a look at the biggest diorama of all, Grognak fights off a Wanamingo horde on his way to battle Greelock, complete with sharks in the water. It wouldn't be a Duke Destro build without a gruesome sculpture of some kind, and this museum's centerpiece is a shape-shifting demonic bear moth hybrid. Another great build from Duke, and let me know in the comments which diorama was your favourite. You could build camps in some pretty remote spots in Fallout 76, and the next camp is definitely one of these, as we have the Eagle's Nest built by Drago, a Blood Eagle Raider camp built on top of Grafton Castle in adventure mode. Perched on top of the pipes on the highest tower, it has everything a gang of raiders would need, with ample room for brewing stations, a windmill generator providing power, and was meant to look like it was built around a pre-existing Nuka-Cola billboard. Using a system of pedal-powered cranes and pulleys to transfer food and supplies is still a pretty dangerous spot for a camp. Building up high in a remote spot like this is definitely a challenge, and Draco had to pull out all the stops to pull this off. Using a lot of techniques showcased in Bad Notion's Build High tutorial you can find on the channel, he started by building a safety net of glass roofs to work on, followed by 6 or 7 layers of items on spiked board traps, with the billboard and windmill placed down first. And building up this high, half walls and walls all needed to be blueprinted first too. Definitely check out that tutorial if you wanted to learn a little bit more about the process of building up high like this. But now taking a look at some of those finer details, we have a custom made weapons rack in the dresser, a cryolator seemingly left on top of a table, a cappy crushed under a safe, and a bear arm on the couch. Another amazing raider build by Drago in a camp spot I definitely didn't know existed, and must have been a pretty severe headache to pull this off this well. The penultimate build in today's showcase is a really interesting one, a camp that can only be seen properly from 1 or 2 angles. The Monster Attack is the latest perspective camp built by Darpen. Having already made this giant table scene, Darpen has some experience of a bit of visual trickery and really took it up a notch with the latest camp. Heading over to see it for myself, on first viewing it seems to be a disparate collection of different structures, but seeing it like this gives you a unique behind the scenes look at how exactly this was made. Kindly standing in as the monster for this showcase, it might be the first camp I've seen where the builder is actually an integral part of the build itself, and positioning your camera just right at the front and adjusting the field of view and view distance, you end up with a mannequin rabbit in the distance to scale with some of the miniature figurines in the foreground. And there's more though, because not only is the builder part of this showcase, but the cameraman can be too. Thanks to the free cam feature for camp building, I could take part as well, and running up this tower at the back and standing on this marker adds me into the composition as well. Definitely one of the most unique and inventive approaches to camp building I think I've seen. I can't wait to see what Darpen builds next. And with that, we've reached the final build in today's showcase. It's another one from Monster76, as we take to the water for a tour of the luxury wasteland yacht, the Kill Laugh Love. In celebration of the Uranium Fever channel passing 50k subscribers, we decided to throw a little bit of a celebratory party on board, but before we get caught up with the festivities, let's take a look at this design. An adventure mode build built on Thunder Mountain Lake. The yacht has 4 different tiers to walk on, and to get the shape just right, Monty had to make frequent trips to a workshop to blueprint the hull in one piece, making a couple of return trips for some fine tuning. All the walls are free placed using catwalks for accurate alignment, using drop merge tables of various sizes to raise up particular sections of wall to the correct height. Overall, I think he did a great job, and this is probably the best ship design I think I've seen so far in game. With that out of the way though, it's time to test out the amenities on board. We've reached the end of today's showcase. Thanks to everyone who stopped by for the party, things got a little bit off the chain. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and definitely let me know in the comments which of these camps was your favourite. We'll be back with future camp showcases, so please consider subscribing to help the channel grow and to ensure you don't miss any future videos. Special thanks to the builders showcased in today's video. You can find other builds by Drago, Bad Notions, Duke Destro, and Monster76 here on the Uranium Fever channel, with dedicated playlists for each creator. You can also see all of KAZAMATI's devilishly creative camps over on his channel and on Twitter as well, which is where you can also keep up with the builds that Darpen, Kegliostro, WAUWAUBAU, and Rio Taru are working on as well. But with that said though, I'm off. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.